And here we go. This chicken and wild rice one-pot meal is a staple for me in the wintertime. It's simple enough that when you're short on time, it comes together really quickly, but thanks to the flavor profile of this dish and the addition of wild rice, it's elevated enough that you could absolutely serve it to guests over the holidays. If you want something hearty, affordable, nutritious, and packed with flavor, stick around. I'm gonna show you how I make it today. Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. Thank you for spending your time with me. If you need something this holiday season that's inexpensive, hearty, nutritious, this might just be the one for you. The ingredients today are pretty simple, though the flavor profile is what's special about this dish. I'm using a base of chicken and wild rice, bumping up the flavor with some apple, mushrooms, garlic, and lemon, and finishing this dish in a really special way, stirring in some green peas, almonds, and some gruyere cheese if dairy is your thing. The work time on this one is super minimal, though it does have to cook for like 45 minutes to an hour to make sure the wild rice is completely cooked. If wild rice isn't your thing, or you're trying to make an even more budget-conscious version of this dish, sub the wild rice for brown rice or even white rice. I've also made this with a wild rice blend, and that works beautifully too. I'm using chicken thighs today, both for their flavor, but also because they're a little bit more forgiving. This is a longer cooking one-pot meal, so I want something that won't dry out as it simmers in the cooking liquid with the rice. But as it is, we're gonna serve 4 to 5 people for like $4 or less in this meal. So I'm gonna get started processing some of these vegetables and talk to you about the method along the way. So as with many one-pot meals, I'm going to try to get as much flavor as I can into this meal that's gonna cook total in like an hour. So we're gonna start with a basis of butter and olive oil, but of course if you don't do dairy, just use oil. I'm gonna add some onions and some garlic, saute an apple and some mushrooms, and a little bit of citrus in that veggie mixture. I'm using my cast iron skillet, but all you really need here is a vessel with a relatively tight fitting lid so that you can cook your rice. So I'm gonna get our onions started in a mix of butter and oil in my cast iron skillet, just to start the onion cooking a little bit and sweating out. Next up, I'm gonna cut up our apple, and I'm gonna leave the skin on. You can definitely take the skin off this apple if you like. So rough dice on our apple is done. And I'm gonna add to this a little bit of lemon juice. So adding lemon juice, which is an acid, to these apples is gonna not only keep them from turning brown, it's also going to add a little bit of acidity into the background of this dish. The key to one-pot cooking is to try to balance the salt, fat, acid, heat, and umami in each dish, and to add a little bit of each of those things so that what is usually a quick cooking, simple ingredients, pretty inexpensive meal turns into something that is flavorful, hearty, and leaves you really satisfied. I'm going to wash my hands, give our onions a quick stir, and then get started processing through our mushrooms and our garlic. On to our mushrooms. I have a whole boatload of mushrooms here because they were on sale, but use as many as you have and the type of mushrooms that you like. I believe these are cremini mushrooms. Normally I don't worry too much about cutting the stems off, but these stems look a little bit worse for wear, so I'm just gonna give them a quick trim. Now I'm just gonna process through these mushrooms. Don't need to cut them particularly small. In fact, a little bit bigger dice on the mushroom is nice. Since they're gonna be cooking for a while with the rice and the chicken, it's nice to leave them a little bit bigger. Perfect. Big old pile of mushrooms. Now I'm just gonna dice up some garlic. I have like 5 cloves here, but use as much or as little as you like. Garlic is diced. Everything else happens at the stove, so I'll see you over there. Okay, back over at the stove. Our onions are perfect. They got a little bit of color on them, which is totally fine for me. I'm gonna add our apple now. Over just a medium heat, I'm just gonna saute the apples just slightly. Add some salt and pepper. I added a little bit of salt to the onions, so I'm gonna go easy on the salt and add some pepper. And while I have my salt and pepper out, I'm going to salt and pepper my chicken as well. Okay, so our apples have been in for maybe a minute. They're still really firm, but they're coated in that fat. They're mixed nicely with the onions, so I'm gonna add our mushrooms. We're just gonna cook these mushrooms down until they've reduced in volume a little bit. They don't need to be completely cooked at this point. We just wanna make some room in our pan. Okay, so I've stirred our mushrooms in a little. I'm just gonna pop the lid on and let these sweat out for a couple of minutes. Just a couple minutes later. So I'm gonna bump the heat up, get these to keep going, and add in our garlic. So I'm just gonna continue cooking this uncovered for a couple more minutes as the mushrooms continue to reduce in size. And it's time to add in our rice and our chicken stock. In total, I have about 4 cups of chicken stock ready to go. I'm gonna start with 2 cups of stock and 1.5 cups of wild rice, but this is one that you'll have to monitor throughout its cooking time and make sure that you're adding the appropriate amount of stock. So I'm gonna make a little well in the middle and add in my rice. The goal here is to toast the rice a little bit just before we add the liquid in. Again, with these one-pot meals, you want to take every opportunity you can to add flavor. And toasting your rice, whether it's wild or white or brown or some sort of a mix, is a great way to add additional flavor. I'm going to start with 2 cups of chicken stock. Again, this is over a high heat. And the goal is to cover the rice and the veggies in stock. You want to bring the stock up to a simmer, which it basically is. The last step is to nestle our chicken thighs down in. This is going to both gently cook the chicken, but also really give some nice flavor to this cooking liquid for the rice. But for now, that looks great. So I'm going to keep it on between low and medium. I just want it to be at a gentle simmer. I'm going to plunk the lid on. And I'm gonna come back in probably about 15 to 20 minutes to check our progress. I'm gonna add more chicken stock if I need to, but generally all we're doing now is cooking this until the wild rice is completely cooked through. And it is time. Our wild rice is cooked. Our chicken looks delicious. Just a couple more steps and this meal is almost ready for the table. So over the heat, I'm going to stir in peas. This is just 1 package of frozen peas and some slivered almonds. If your casserole ends up a little bit soupy, it's not a huge deal. It's super, super flavorful, so it will be very delicious. Last thing, which is totally optional, but I'm gonna add some gruyere over the top. And then this could go under a broiler if you wanted to make it nice and brown. But for simplicity's sake, I'm just gonna leave it on my stovetop, pop a lid back on for like 1 more minute, melt that cheese, and then we are ready to serve. And here we go. Just some fresh chopped parsley right over the top. And there we have it. The only thing left is to taste it. A little bit of chicken, some mushrooms, some peas, some of those almonds. Looks so good. It's still piping hot. So there's something about this one-pot meal that makes it feel special. I think it's the addition of wild rice, which is definitely a more expensive ingredient, but it's very worth it in this instance. And the almonds and the gruyere at the very end are just kind of something unexpected that really bring it all together. The flavors are delicious with the tanginess from the lemon, the sweetness from the apple, and the chicken thighs are cooked beautifully, even though they were simmering with the rice for like almost an hour. You should give this one a try. If you're on a budget, but you still love flavorful, hearty, nutritious food that doesn't take a lot of effort, this might just be the perfect dish for you. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope this dish gives you another option for your holiday entertaining. So if you decide to make this, please let me know in the comments below and tell me what you would do differently. If you liked this video, please give it a like. If you'd like to see more from me, please subscribe to my channel. I hope you stick around and then I get to see you here next time. Cheers!